If you guys don't know Defunct Land, you should watch him and subscribe to him. Very good channel. I watch his content a lot. That music sounds really familiar. What is that from?
In the mid-19th century, in the northeastern region of the United States, there was a new pastime that people could not get enough of: picnics. While picnics had been a French pastime for over a century, Americans did not begin to indulge in the practice until the early 1800s, and then it was almost exclusively for the upper class. By the mid-19th century, though, people of all means were packing a basket, finding a picturesque location, and sitting on a blanket to enjoy a meal. Maybe somebody would bring a guitar and play some tunes. Maybe some couples would sneak out for some alone time. Maybe some guy in a boat would row by to watch. Everyone loves a picnic. And for those living near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, one of the most popular picnic locations was Kenny's Grove, a beautiful section of a farm owned by a man named Anthony Kenny. Located southeast of Pittsburgh in the Mifflin Township, Kenny's Grove was a popular picnic location with a beautiful view of the Monongahela River Valley. The area would become so popular in the latter half of the 19th century that in 1898, the Monongahela Street Railways Company sought to create a picnic park at the end of their Mifflin streetcar line. The company leased land from the Kenny family and renamed the picnic area to Kenny.
Later in the video, there'll be a montage of emails. Worth pausing and reading each one? Okay.
Kennywood Park. This type of trolley park was common throughout the United States, and they were typically created to increase railway profits, especially on the weekends. As with many trolley parks, Kennywood Park would not remain a picnic park forever. In 1898, just a year after leasing the land, Monongahela added a dance pavilion, the casino building restaurant, and Kennywood's first ride, a carousel. The following year, a bandstand was constructed, and the year after that, in 1901, Kennywood built another new ride, named the Old Mill. The Old Mill was not a unique ride to Kennywood, but rather an entire category of amusement
Garfield
park ride. Old Mills are slow-moving boat rides with no steep inclines or declines. The water in many of these rides are moved,
I assume it turns into a Garfield park,
by a mill. Old mills were best known for their significant indoor stretches that were most often in pitch-black darkness. This led many couples to take advantage of the dark portions for romance-related activity, leading to the Old Mill getting its more recognizable name, the Tunnel of Love. These seem to sprout up all over
Has anyone ever banged in the Tunnel of Love?
Early 20th century, in World's Fairs, state fairs, trolley parks, and amusement parks, and their reputation soon became a marketing ploy, with more and more old mills receiving branding of a romantic or sexual nature. The Old Mill at Kennywood was one of the first Old Mill rides, and although it was never branded specifically as a Tunnel of Love, local couples...
What if they made their like Tunnel of Love boats, but with like beds on them, so people could just bang real quick? I mean, let's be real. Most people's banging sessions are like a couple minutes tops. If it's just like through a small tunnel, if you go slow enough, you could probably, you know, boom, bam, get in, get it done, and then put your clothes back on, and by the time you get out. It could be a challenge, you know? Like, you know, can we, you know, do it in time without anyone noticing?
Couples found that it worked just
I'm going to talk to Amy about that.
Kennywood's Old Mill would...
And I said that out loud. Shit.
Would receive several themes and overlays during its first few years of operation. It was first themed to the Fairyland floats, then to the canals of Venice, and later to the Panama Canal, which at the time was an extremely topical theme as the actual Panama Canal had just debuted. After the Panama Canal theme, the Old Mill became the Rapids Gorge and then the Fairyland floats again, before returning to its classic name, the Old Mill. In 1922, the ride underwent a refurbishment and received a new facade to appear more like a New England mill, and had its ride system overhauled and enlarged. Arguably the biggest change to the Old Mill in its early years would come after the ride caught on fire and burned to the ground, being rebuilt for the 1926 season and receiving new theming.
Why does that happen so much?
With comic supplement characters, including Happy Hooligan, the Katzenjammer Kids, and Jiggs and Maggie. In 1936, the Old Mill was redecorated again with 8 new theatrically lit pictures. Another major refurbishment to the ride occurred in 1940. During this season, the Old Mill received a renovation with new animations. The refurbishment featured 7 well-known characters from comic strips and cartoons, including Blondie,
Garfield?
Popeye, the Lone Ranger, the Little King, Tarzan, Gulliver, and Little Henry. In 1957, the old mill was themed to a trip around the world. The comic characters were replaced with scenes of Hawaii, a kangaroo in Australia, a tiger in Asia, an elephant in Africa, and even Santa Claus in the North Pole. The loading area was also given an animatronic band of monkeys that would play music for guests in the queue, which was apparently auctioned off just 1 month before I started writing this video.
Imagine owning that, dude. It's actually pretty cool. If you own something like that, not gonna lie. Only $2,000 though? Dude, I'd get that.
Although it sold for $2,300, which is more than I've ever spent on an animatronic monkey band. For the 1974 season, the Old Mill would receive its most significant thematic overhaul to date, becoming Hard-Headed Harold's horrendously humorous haunted hideaway. This retheme sent riders through an Old West ghost town, with comical and frightening scenes of skeletons placed throughout the ride. Some of these figures were animated, and sound effects were added to a few sections. This is the first version of the attraction that has been well documented, and it showcases the creative placement of the show scenes throughout the ride track. The Old Mill's middle section consists of 3 circles. In the center of these, outdoor show scenes were constructed, with parts of the tunnel being removed and replaced with fencing so guests could look outside. There are also 4 show buildings where dark ride scenes have been placed. Despite the creative theming of Hard-Headed Harold's horrendously humorous...
Would you buy the monkeys? If I had the money, I'd buy the monkeys, yes.
haunted hideaway, the Old Mill continued to be known for one thing. Kennywood's director of community and government relations put it best, explaining, quote, "It didn't matter what the theme was. Anyone who rode that ride in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, they were not on that ride to look at the scenes.
It's a place for cuddling and to sort of make out canoodle. You're a little bit nervous about getting on the Old Mill with a girl the first time because you might end up getting slapped, but you also might end up getting, you know, a snuggle."
In 1984, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette did a feature
on the ride. Who the fuck is this guy? Dude, this guy must have banged many times. Look at that face. You know he was, what was it called? The amount of times this guy probably soaked. He's probably soaking like crazy when he's in there. Just setting, marinating.
A snuggle.
In 1984, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette did a feature on the ride's reputation of romance. When interviewed, 15-year-old Missy Stash said, quote, "Everyone goes in there and really goes at it. You should see. Some of the boats come out and there's nobody in them." 61-year-old Ellen Ammon, recalling her Old Mill trips from
Wouldn't
the 1930s,
that be a problem?
remembered that the boys would bring string onto the ride. In the dark portions, they would brush the string along the necks of girls to convince them that there were spiders and water snakes in the tunnels, in an effort to hold them close through their terror.
God, the shit that teenage boys go through to get a pee-pee touch is insanity. Man, teenage boys are insane, dude. I just want to get a pee-pee touch. God, please.
Another common occurrence was seeing couples buttoning up their shirts while exiting the attraction. An uptick in romantic activity in the Old Mill was met with an increase in supervision from the park. Kennywood employees would be stationed at various points throughout the ride, armed with a flashlight and a disapproving stare. They would rarely intervene if the activity was nothing more than a kiss, but for anything more than that, the young couples would be told to knock it off. At one point in the 1960s, Kennywood employees were given a plastic bat and were instructed that if they saw the naked buttocks of any rider, they were to smack them with the bat.
What? What? Aw, stop it, guys. Stop it. They start getting into it. Yeah. You stop it, you bad boy. You stop it. Oh, stop spanking me. Stop. What if it turns out to be counterproductive? Yeah, stop it. Stop, bad boy. Oh, stop. Stop hitting me so hard. So, yeah, someone rolls up They haven't been doing anything, but he's like, sir, I've been a bad boy. Pulls down his pants. It's like, oh, I guess I got to spank you.
This was very effective, and almost always prompted the embarrassed couples to quickly redress themselves for the remainder of the journey. This solution was actually quite popular in old mills, as this photo from a different tunnel of love proves. Kennywood would later install cameras and a PA system, so that employees could tell riders to stop their behavior without having to assault them in the dark. Hard-Headed Harold's horrendously humorous Haunted Hideaway understandably dropped the alliterative name in 1992, reverting back to the old mill but keeping the rest of the theming. As the old mill entered the 2000s, officially celebrating its 100th birthday, Kennywood was weighing the pros and cons of the ride. Due to its age and design, the attraction required a lot of maintenance and took up a significant amount of land at the park. Kennywood is well known for constantly building new attractions and creating new experiences to push locals to come back each season. So it was not out of the question to tear down the old mill and replace it with something more modern and thrilling. However, the management at Kennywood also cares deeply for the history of its park, and few, if any, wanted to see the park's oldest attraction torn down. So 100 years after its opening and 30 years after its last major refurbishment, a refresh of the old mill was on everyone's minds. Kennywood wanted to find a way to keep the historic ride
Garfield,
in the park, but update it to appeal to modern audiences. And the answer to this would come in the form of a powerful cat named Garfield. Garfield is a comic strip written by cartoonist Jim Davis that debuted in 1976. The eponymous orange tabby cat needs no introduction. The general public is well aware of his love of lasagna, hatred of Mondays, and his trademark laziness. Garfield, along with his dorky owner John, John's naive dog Odie, and a cast of other recurring characters quickly found their ways into the comic sections of newspapers across the country. By 1982, the strip was appearing in over 1,000 newspapers. Over the next 2 decades, as the comic and character rose in popularity, Garfield would spawn an unprecedented amount of merchandise and media, including toys, books, video games, TV specials, and much more. Despite
bro, that's crazy, dude. How far have we come, bro? Imagine like newspaper comics being the peak of entertainment.
Being a household name and his face being on everything from tea kettles to lava lamps, he was noticeably absent in amusement parks. It seemed that every major park chain had a classic cartoon character as a mascot. Disney had Mickey Mouse and Friends, Universal had Woody Woodpecker, Cedar Fair had the Peanuts Gang, and Six Flags had the Looney Tunes. Garfield's omission from the medium was not lost on his creator. In 1988, when asked if Garfield would enter the theme park business, Davis said, quote, "I wouldn't touch it. Never." And that's the history of Garfield and theme parks. Wait, 8 years later, he changed his mind. Wonder why.
Money.
In 1996, plans were announced for a 535-acre theme park to be located in Davis's home state of Indiana, near Indianapolis in Hendricks County. The project was named the Heartland Festival Entertainment Complex, and at the heart of the park would be Garfield's universe, a land dedicated to the character. This would include a character carousel, Arbuckle's picnic coaster, a ride called Garfield's Extreme Adventure, an Odie tongue slide, Irma's Diner, and Mama Leone. Character. This would include a character carousel, Arbuckle's picnic coaster, a ride called Garfield's Extreme Adventure, an Odie tongue slide, Irma's picnic coaster, a ride called Garfield's Extreme Adventure, an Odie tongue slide, Irma's Diner, and Mama Leone's restaurant, which would serve, of course, lasagna. The park was planned to open in 1997 and was a joint effort between a Michigan development company and Davis's company, Paws Inc. The cost of the project was estimated to be $120 million. By all accounts, Davis was significantly involved in the park's design, even going so far as to have a special Garfield theme park planning room, and even conceptualizing the more mundane aspects of the project, such as the garbage cans and restrooms.
Why do people do this? Why does anyone do this? When companies have like your favorite character... Dude, let's make it where you're pissing in your favorite character's mouth. Just that one guy. Yeah, Garfield. Yeah, you take my piss. Yeah. Yeah, you enjoy that. Yeah, I hate Mondays too, but you love my piss. Come on.
On top of the design contractors, Davis reached out to other amusement park operators to consult on the project during its early stages. This was when Davis first reached out to the Kennywood Entertainment Company, which owned 5 small parks in and around Pennsylvania, including Kennywood in West Mifflin. A year after the announcement, the opening date was pushed back to 1998. Despite significant utilities and groundwork being completed, the project struggled to find the remainder of its funding. The following year, the park rebranded to Garfield's Adventure America and scaled back on its plans, opting to construct and debut the Garfield area first, with the opening now planned for 1999.
Dude, I haven't been on a roller coaster in so freaking long,
significant number of Hendricks County residents opposed the project, even forming a group called Citizens Opposing Amusement Park, or COPE. The theme park was pushed back another year with a projected opening of 2000. In December of 1999, Kennywood officials attended the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions Convention and Trade Show. It is here that they learned that Garfield was available to license. It seemed that while Garfield's Adventure America was in a state of limbo, Davis was looking to integrate the character elsewhere, at least temporarily, and Kennywood Entertainment was reportedly one of his top choices, specifically the historic Kennywood Park as well as lake compounds in Connecticut. Kim Campbell, a spokesperson for Paws Inc., explained, quote, Jim liked the long histories of both parks.
That's 100% what the security guard from the Tunnel of Love ride says to the Garfield urinal.
Jim said the parks were a perfect fit for Garfield, who never met a picnic he didn't like. You didn't think that picnic stuff was gonna come back, did ya? An agreement was made between Kennywood and Paws Inc. for a 1-year licensing deal to have Garfield and Odie become the mascots of both Kennywood and Lake Compounds. This is despite the fact that Kennywood and Lake Compounds already had mascots. Kennywood had Kenny the Kangaroo, and Lake Compounds had Kyle the Crocodile.
What is with like old mascot characters always looking insanely creepy?
Both parks assured fans that Garfield and Odie would stand alongside the legacy characters and would not be replacing them. This integration in the northeastern park seemed to conflict with the appeal of Garfield's Adventure America in Indiana. However, it was revealed that the developers of the Indiana park only had the exclusive rights to the character within a 150-mile radius, and that Jim Davis and Paws Inc. had never financially invested in the park. The developers assured the public and their investors that Garfield's integration at Kennywood and Lake Compounds would not detract from the appeal of Garfield's Adventure America. But at this point, many were convinced that the park would never be built. Meanwhile, at the Kennywood parks, Garfield and Odie were fitting right in, taking photos with guests, selling merchandise, and appearing in advertisements. The integration was successful enough that Kennywood and
I want to
Paws
ride
Inc.
a
extended
Garfield
their
roller
agreement,
coaster, man.
further cementing Garfield's presence in the parks. Kennywood's Kittyland would receive more Garfield theming, and in 2002, the first Garfield ride opened at Kennywood, named Garfield's Pounce Bounce, a kitty bounce tower made to look like a block of cheese, covered in mice, and adorned with a Garfield statue. As Garfield continued to increase his presence at Kennywood, the park in Indiana was finally canceled. The developer had been sued by one of its contractors for lack of payment, and not long after this, it was revealed that the park owed $166,000 in back taxes. The park was soon foreclosed on, and the development company filed for bankruptcy. By 2003,
imagine getting foreclosed on a freaking amusement park,
dude. Park would have sat. Despite the failure of the park, Davis was still passionate about Garfield's presence in theme parks. And since he and his company already had a successful relationship with Kennywood, it only made sense to go all in on the Pennsylvania park. It was time for Garfield to get his own dark ride.
Let's go. Let's go.
It was at this point that the history of the Old Mill and the history of Garfield collided. Davis and Paws Inc. wanted a Garfield dark ride, and Kennywood wanted to retheme the Old Mill. The timing was perfect, and even better, Kennywood already had...
Hey, babe. What if we kissed in the Garfield Tunnel of Love
designer in mind? Larry Kirshner, the owner of the haunted house design firm Halloween Productions, had recently installed an attraction at Kennywood, telling park management that if there ever came an opportunity to design a dark ride, Kirshner and Halloween Productions wanted in. Kirshner recalled wanting to design a dark ride so bad that
dude, I want to kiss on Odie's tongue slide.
When the Garfield Old Mill retheme was discussed, Kennywood reached out to Kirshner, who happily accepted the job. Kirshner's plans for the attraction included animatronics and 3D effects, and his background in haunted houses would lead him to pitch a Garfield ride with horror and comedy aspects, not dissimilar to the Old Mill's hard-headed Harold theming. However, Kirshner's plans were too ambitious. He recalled, quote, "We wanted to make it look like a billboard smashes open and there's a Frankenstein food character, and then we squirt them all with water. I wanted to do other CGI effects so it wasn't so static and so the characters were interacting with them.
Yeah, squirt
Obviously,
me.
big effects like this were difficult to achieve in the retheme's limited
While they're in there trying to bang, they get squirted on. God, yeah.
budget. But the team ran into another issue entirely. Kennywood officials explained to Kirshner and Halloween Productions that, quote,
Why is this all like? Why is every single thing turning into like a sexual thing? Like the tunnel turns into a sexual thing, and then Otis's tongue slide. Like there's you don't name something that
great because too many people would want to ride it. It has a pretty limited capacity since it's a boat ride. Pete McEnany, the general manager of Kennywood Entertainment, remembered, quote, one of the things we had to do was not make it too spectacular.
I got bidet in the face.
High capacity. So with a small budget and an explicit directive to make the ride no better than good, the team marched forward. Kirshner imagined guests riding through the old mill as though they were riding through a Garfield book. The premise for the ride was that Garfield was having a nightmare, which would give the team an excuse to incorporate horror elements and retain some of the dark portions. One point of contention in the ride's history was the involvement of Jim Davis and Paws Inc. While Davis certainly wanted the ride to be built and approved it, there was a dispute as to how involved he was in the creative process. McEnany recalled that Davis wrote the script for the ride and drew the concept art, but Kirshner recalled, quote, we did 20 or 30 drawings. He didn't do anything. I never talked to Jim Davis. The biggest thing was he or someone gave us some Garfield books, and then we had to figure out which story we wanted to tell.
That's hilarious.
Despite the obstacles, Kirshner and Halloween Productions were able to pull off a substantial retheme to the old mill, resulting in the most elaborate overlay in the ride's 103-year-old history. How this version would be received by the public, though, was still uncertain.
I mean, it's Garfield. How would you not love it?
On May 1st, 2004, Kennywood opened for the season with a brand new attraction, Garfield's Nightmare. The retheme to the old mill was dedicated with a small ceremony, at which Garfield and Odie took their first ride. Kenny the Kangaroo was also in attendance.
And then we never saw them again.
Although he could not fit into the boat with the other characters.
God damn. Poor guy.
Guests entered the attraction under the large signage, twisting around an outdoor queue with the familiar old mill show building intact. With a small adjustment. In the window of the mill house, a frightened Garfield could be seen inside as the shutters opened and closed. While waiting in line, riders viewed TV screens that explained the
Look
history
at those
of the ride and
TVs,
featured
man.
clips of Garfield. As guests entered the loading area, they were surprisingly handed 3D glasses to wear on the attraction. After riders loaded into their boat, they would take a left turn, passing a guard station revealing that the ride was covered in cameras. Reportedly, this was intentionally put in plain sight as another deterrent for romantic activity. As guests climbed a short-lived
That probably didn't
they heard
stop
a
'em.
mysterious booming voice.
This is the most frightening adventure you will ever be on. Unless you have cheese. I like cheese. So give me some cheese and I'll...
But I hate Mondays.
Enjoy your ride.
After a right turn, guests went down a passageway covered in glowing advertisements for PepsiCo products, which was
Why? What? That's what I love with my amusement park rides is fucking ads.
surprisingly Kennywood's food and drink vendor. This
What?
was also the first of many blacklight scenes, and the walls were splattered with fluorescent material, which was definitely added by Halloween Productions during the refurbishment.
That's calm. That's calm. Come on.
And was not the result of 103 years of bad aim.
Yeah, it's calm. Come on.
This is also where the 3D glasses came into play. Rather than being a stereoscopic 3D effect in which two images are made into one to simulate depth, Garfield's Nightmare used chroma depth, which diffracts colors through a holographic film. This results in certain colors popping into the foreground while others are pushed into the background. The warm colors, red, orange, and yellow, are the ones pulled forward,
I didn't even
while
know it was a
blue,
thing.
indigo, and violet are pushed back. This effect works best with bright primary and secondary colors, which inadvertently gave the ride a distinct color scheme. The chroma depth effect is commonly used in haunted houses, and Kirshner and his team are industry leaders in the style. A benefit of the style is that unlike stereoscopic 3D, riders could view the ride without glasses, and would not have the ghosting effect seen when watching a polarized or anaglyph 3D setup without glasses. A nice
That's pretty
possible
cool.
coincidence was that Garfield was famously orange, so the character would always pop to the foreground, while the background and other characters in the ride would be painted with blue or green colors. If you'd like to try this out for yourself, you can find cheap chroma depth glasses online and watch a POV of the ride with the brightness turned all the way up. It's
That's pretty
just
cool.
like the real thing. After the product placement tunnel, riders encounter their first Garfield strip, which depicts Garfield falling asleep after a big meal, thus beginning his nightmare. The strips appearing in the ride were previously released Garfield strips and not created specifically for the attraction. After this, guests enter the first scene, in which Garfield's messy house begins to come alive. With
Dude, the
door
colors
swinging
are
open
really
and shut,
cool, not gonna
Garfield's
lie.
voice plays overhead, repeating,
I never met an ice cream truck I didn't like.
Another strip depicted Garfield depressed that he couldn't catch the ice cream truck. In the next scene, the ice cream truck finally appears, but in a twist, the truck, driven by ice cream
Oh
cones,
wow, that's
is
actually
chasing
really
after
cool. What
Garfield.
the heck?
Another strip depicted Garfield scaring the mailman, a running gag in the comics. The next scene shows the mailman smiling as an angry dog opens and closes its jaws.
The
The
fuck?
next strip features another running gag from the comics, in which Garfield torments spiders. Predictably, the next scene is of a large spider tormenting Garfield. This pattern continues with another running gag, Garfield eating a fish in a fishbowl, followed by a scene of a fish eating Garfield.
Oh my
The most
gosh.
terrifying part of the ride thus far is arguably this chair. While not explicitly referenced in the ride, another running gag from the comic strip is Garfield using John's chair as a scratching post, and it appears that this chair, while not getting direct revenge on Garfield, is having a great time watching. The next scene shows Garfield's vet Liz holding a giant needle, with Garfield tied up by a rope, held by an Igor-type character. The needle would blow a puff of air onto riders. Another strip depicts Garfield attacking the pizza delivery man, and the next scene shows the pizza delivery man and evil pizza boxes attacking Garfield.
What the
next
heck?
strip and scene is a break from form. The strip depicts
I wanna
Garfield
ride
mentioning
this.
that he's going to the kitchen, with a depressed-looking John saying nothing. The next scene is one of the most difficult to decipher. On the right side of the boat, the appliances in the kitchen have come to life in menacing fashion, while boxes of lasagna have formed a kick line on the table. On the left side of the boat, a terrified Garfield is surrounded by an evil-looking John and a monstrous Odie, who appears to have torn off his long tongue and wrapped it around his body like a coat. There is also a zombie hot dog monster strapped to a table.
Okay. That jumped up to
Wearing
10. What the
sunglasses.
fuck?
The final strip and scene shows John asking Garfield to catch mice, which Garfield refuses to do. In the comic strip,
Jesus.
Garfield will eat just about anything besides mice. Despite this, in Garfield's nightmare, the mice still want revenge on him, cooking up a cat stew. As the ride nears its end, the characters that were tormenting Garfield moments ago are now lined up, smiling as the boat passes. Garfield's voice instructs guests that a photo op is coming up.
Oh yeah, got a photo opportunity coming up. Doesn't get any better than that.
The mouse from the beginning of the ride instructs guests to smile as a large camera is clearly placed so the guests may pose for the picture. As guests reach the end of the ride, a final strip appears on the wall. Garfield says, quote, "What a great ride. It was kinda scary, but it's over."
I can never canoodle on this nightmare. There's too many lights, man. How am I supposed to get my action? How am I supposed to get spanked by a security guard with a plastic bat? Like, come on.
For now, while the creatures from the ride follow close behind. This appears to be the only Garfield strip created specifically for the attraction. Garfield's nightmare was drastically different than the old mill Kennywood regulars were used to, and any significant change would have its detractors. However,
Oh, am I
Garfield's
still giving
nightmare
you guys
almost
G Fuel codes? Oh, shit. Let me delete that. Especially now. I mean, I'm not with them anymore, but still. Let me fix that. A wiffle ball bat? Hell yes. I might start implementing that. Babe, can you just hold this wiffle ball bat real quick? Yeah, why? No reason. Just hold it right there. Yeah. That looks. Yeah, I like that. Now, can you just like hit me with it? Where just hit me. Hit me. Spank me. Where is it at? G Fuel turned off. Okay.
immediately developed a cult of hatred among parkgoers, with many citing its cheap effects, product placement, and overall bizarre nature. It was too scary for many children and too Garfield for many adults. For longtime Kennywood fans, it felt
Check
like
Twitter. Why? Oh, wait. Oh, you guys didn't know about G Fuel. Yeah, chat. Just Google. I talked about it at the beginning of the stream. Google G Fuel controversy. Or just type G Fuel on Twitter. You'll see what's happening. Basically, they fired a bunch of people after calling them lazy motherfuckers and slurs. So
a betrayal of the historic old mill. But in all fairness, they probably just weren't around for the 1920s version that featured Jiggs and Maggie, the Garfield and Odie of the 20s. As far as a Garfield ride goes, it successfully featured many classic characters and famous scenarios from the comics, and the original art that Kirshner and his team created for the ride looked like it was pulled straight out of a Garfield strip. Despite the low budget, the attraction
it honestly
featured
looked
solid
really
gags
good.
and some terrifying imagery. But who cares what Kennywood regulars, Garfield fans, or even children think? The real demographic that matters is the one that gave the Old Mill its century-long reputation: young couples. In a Pittsburgh Post-Gazette report before the ride's open.
No way, you're telling me people are mad because they can't bang in the Garfield ride? Is that what they're mad about?
Kennywood officials assured fans that, quote, "We haven't messed with what made the Old Mill, which the Gazette took to mean that, quote, "couples will still be able to find a suitable spot along the way to, ahem, exchange pleasantries."
So they're literally advertising that they want teenagers to bang in their ride? What? No, don't worry, guys. You could totally still bang in here. There's a couple portions that are pretty dark. You know, if you could just like slip it in real quick, you might be able to get it off. You don't know.
This persistent mentioning in official media of the ride's reputation as a love tunnel sent me down a rabbit hole.
Yeah,
that I could not have
Odie's tongue, you know? I was just role playing as Odie.
Every amusement park ride you have ever been on or will ever go on has been the setting for some funny business. Whether it's at your local amusement park or at Walt Disney World, if you can be seated within arm's reach of another person, someone has found a way to do something on that ride.
Dude, the amount of jerkers out there, man, those people who are just like jerking on the side like you don't even know. There's so many jerkers out there. You don't even know what's happening. That happened in class one time when I was younger. There was 2 kids in the back who were... You know, the teacher found out pretty quick. They got in trouble. Like, why do that? Why are teenagers so goddamn horny? Like, come on, just stop. Calm down.
I talk about amusement park rides all the time, and I never mention this because it's never notable. It's just a given. However, in all of my research, I have never come across a ride in which major publications, journalists, have reported consistently, constantly on a ride's reputation like the Old Mill at Kennywood. I found a newspaper article from 1934 talking about how the ride is a great spot for couples, and the 1984 article in which couples were interviewed about their romantic activity pushed me over the edge. Not what I meant. After hearing mention that sometimes boats would pull into the station with no one inside, I knew that I had to go deeper. Dang it, look, if you're just interested in the physical history of amusement park rides and you don't care about the culture attached to the Old Mill, I'd recommend skipping to this time code. For those remaining, there was a significant amount of documentation as to
Okay. Sexy music?
how Kennywood attempted to fleece young lovers on the ride, but little was known on how these riders were able to accomplish some of the feats that they were boasting about. Were these legends true, or were they fiction? In the name of research, I tweeted the following: have you or someone you know ever made out or made love in the Old Mill Dark Ride at Kennywood Amusement Park? If so, please email your story to imadelove-in-the-old-mill@defunctland.com. I followed up this tweet clarifying that I didn't want details of the activity. I wanted to know where in the ride people
Oh, trust me, they're gonna detail it.
jumped out. And either no one saw this reply or they didn't care, because I did receive many emails, and most of them contained graphic detailing of activities that took place in the Old Mill. To borrow a bit of Pittsburghese, yins are nasty. Of the 56 messages I received, only 3 were obviously fake, and the vast majority contained details far too specific to be made up, mentioning school trips or special events that I verified were accurate. I'm not going to share any of these and assert that they are 100% true, but here are a few of the more interesting submissions with redacted bits for anonymity and appropriateness. Feel free to pause and read at your own pace.
Let's go, chat. Sorry looking for some stories, but while we didn't blank, me and my partner made sweet, passionate, gay kisses on the Old Mill because it was dark and the skeletons were kind of cute, to be honest. 48. I don't normally share things like this, but I like your vids, and your recent tweet was surprisingly relevant to me, lol. My lover ex-husband and I went through the line normally, but as more and more people began to get packed into the line, my downstairs got as slippery as the log jammer. We were subtle grinding in the line. It was shaded by this point, so we weren't in the spotlight, so to speak. We played Handsy Hotsy Totsy in the actual ride. And let me tell you that even though my ex-husband was a general disappointment in life, Garfield and I were both screaming by the end of that ride. Someone's mom probably. This is like they're 48 and they're talking like this. They're talking about how their downstairs got as slippery as the log jammer. God damn. Oh, slow down. Slow down.
Pause and read at your own pace.
That's too fast. This is back when Garfield themed. Oh no, 14. With my dad to celebrate. The two older teens in the boat in front of us were making out passionately. Yes, on the Garfield ride. I'd never witnessed such graphic kissing despite only seeing their silhouettes. There was noises, but I couldn't be sure if it was them or the ride, because a wet slapping could have been them or the nasty boat water, you know? My dad grumbled the whole time but didn't say anything, and it was so painfully awkward. Anyway, that was the last vacation I went on with my dad before. Oh! Hope they enjoyed themselves. What the fuck? No way related to lovemaking, although I guess some people are into it. When I was about 10 or so, my dad's friend was on the boat in front of us. And at that time, we were big into aerial dumps, which is exactly what it sounds like. Shitting from the highest area you possibly could. Trees were commonly used, as was standing on the lid of the toilet seat. Well, no parents were around, and sure enough, my friend stood up on the ride and screamed aerial dump and took a big wet one right into the river. There's no way people like that exist, right? There's no way people like that exist. That's got to be fake. There's no way. You know what? Hell, that might not even be fake. That's like how it's written. Just, I don't know. Did he wipe? What do you mean? No, he aerial dumped. He left it, man. Made out with two different people. Was blank, felt blank. You can't, what? That doesn't, you can't redact that. Felt dick was, what is that? Was reading the Bible. That's what, you know what? I think that's what it was. They probably bleeped out reading the Bible. And then felt at peace with my Lord and Savior. Yeah. That sounds about right. I think that's what it was. Yeah, I made out with two different people. We were reading the Bible. And then I felt at peace with my Lord and Savior. Wow. That must have been a good one.
In the end, the email submissions did provide a few interesting insights. First, smart couples would come in packs, try to space out their boat departures as best they could from other riders, and then run their hands on either side of the boat to slow their motion, thus extending the ride and their time in the dark. Second, there are at least two people who claim to know someone that was conceived on this ride. Maybe it's you. Third, most surprising, the Garfield overlay did not deter many people from treating the old mill as the same tunnel of love previous generations had enjoyed. In fact, the majority of my emails were about acts of passion that took place in the neon-lit tunnels of Garfield's nightmare. Some people noted that the Garfield theming diminished the aura of romance, while others admitted that they believe it added to it. Some even purposefully sought it out. Maybe ironic.
Just for a holiday, we're both very big Garfield. Imagine getting conceived in the Garfield love tunnel, dude. Oh my God, why couldn't that be me? Why couldn't that be me? God damn.
Ironically, maybe not. As one emailer so eloquently put it, quote, Garfield knows all of our sins. Perhaps the greatest sin, though, was the lack of upkeep and proper maintenance that Garfield's Nightmare experienced. Within just a few years, the screens in the queue were removed, and many of the effects in the ride stopped working. The audio cues were off or missing, and the video of the mouse at the beginning sometimes wouldn't play. The neon paint started to fade, diminishing any effect the 3D glasses had. The 3D glasses themselves would often not be handed to guests, and it seemed they were eventually phased out altogether, although they would reappear infrequently. When guests were given 3D glasses, the often rambunctious riders would make a game out of throwing them onto the ride, trying to land them in the mouth of the dog or hit certain objects. Oddly, the upkeep of the ride was so poor that the whites of the eyes of the characters in the blown-up comic strips were either faded or removed, resulting in them appearing permanently blackened. All of this somewhat added to the uneasy nature of the ride, but it really just showed the attraction's lack of upkeep. Other than this, the ride lived a quaint, quiet existence, with no major changes or updates. Year after year, Kennywood would open for the season, and Garfield's Nightmare would open with it. In 2007, a Nintendo DS platformer named Garfield's Nightmare was released. But besides the title, the game is in no way connected to the ride. In 2011, the Garfield comic strip featured Garfield, Odie, and John going to an amusement park named Kittywood, which appeared to be a parody of Kennywood. After 2008, Garfield and Odie were phased out as Kennywood mascots and stopped appearing in advertisements. Kenny the Kangaroo reclaimed his throne in West Mifflin and even got a sidekick. Does he look familiar? No. It's the sign. It's the Kennywood sign. You can meet the sign.
That's when you know they're out of ideas.
Kennywood would eventually integrate Thomas the Tank Engine and the Pittsburgh Steelers into attractions at the park, and the new properties fit into Kennywood much more effortlessly than Garfield ever did.
You know what? That's smart, dude. Football fans are insane. That's actually smart. Honey, we're gonna go all the way there. We're gonna ride the Pittsburgh Steelers ride, honey. I don't really want it. It's the Steelers, babe. It's the Steelers.
Garfield and Odie no longer appearing in the park, Garfield's Nightmare continued to operate year after year with no end in sight.
Can I write it now?
This was until 2019,
No!
when news broke that Paws Inc. was being acquired by Viacom, and the rights to Garfield would be utilized by Viacom subsidiary Nickelodeon. This also put Viacom in charge of the character's licensing. Viacom immediately began tightening the brand's image, and the company told Kennywood that if they wished to continue to operate Garfield's Nightmare, the licensing fee would be increased significantly. This pressured Kennywood into removing the Garfield's Nightmare theming from the old mill, and no one at the park put up much of a fight to save the ride. Garfield's Nightmare had operated for 16 seasons.
As a Stairs fan, you literally just described me to my wife word for word. Dude, that's football fans, man. That's football. Dude, my entire mom and dad side of the family are huge football fans. I'm not, but...
seasons. And for many, that was 16 too many. This is not to say that the attraction had no fans, as in those 16 years of operation...
Chad, I literally lost my chance to bang in the Garfield love tunnel. Why, man? Why not me? Why not me?
An entire generation of Kennywood visitors had experienced the ride as their one and only version of the old mill. In March of 2020, Kennywood's YouTube account posted a video titled The History of the Old Mill at Kennywood. The video started as a Ken Burns-style theme park documentary in a similar vein to other YouTube channels that I'm completely blanking on. However, halfway through the video, it was revealed that this was not just a retrospective of the old mill, but it was also an announcement.
We're going to be bringing back the old mill as so many of you
There's a chance?
have requested, and restoring the ride to the retro Western theme.
The news was celebrated by fans who cheered the nightmare.
There's a chance!
And the Pittsburgh City Paper's headline read, "I hope they serve lasagna in heaven." During the off-season, the ride was gutted and completely rethemed. Unfortunately, all of the props from Garfield's Nightmare with a direct tie to the Garfield brand were destroyed at the demand of Viacom, in order to prevent them from being sold or ending up on the black market. To ensure compliance, Kennywood had to film employees completely destroying the Garfield props. The opening of the ride would be delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but when it debuted for guests in July of 2020, when Kennywood opened for a shortened summer season, it was met with positive reviews. The familiar Old West ghost town theme was welcomed back into the historic ride. Despite the massive overhaul, the new theming utilized multiple props and effects from Garfield's Nightmare.
So there's no Garfield?
The new Old Mill also had multiple tributes to Kennywood history, including references to previous Old Mill iterations. For instance, the appearance of a character named Harold, referencing hard-headed Harold's horrendously humorous haunted hideaway. The scenes also featured multiple orange tabby cats throughout the ride, and a tombstone in a graveyard read, G Nightmare. I hope there is lasagna.
Amy, there's a chance. We still have time to bang on the Garfield ride. We still have a chance.
The Old Mill...
It's still there. There's still some lingering chance.
Kennywood is the world's oldest operating Old Mill attraction, and this is not by coincidence. Kennywood is a historic park whose employees and visitors care deeply for its history. While Garfield's Nightmare was not necessarily a beloved attraction, the retheme played an important part in extending the life of this historic ride. While some might remember Garfield's Nightmare for its neon paint and surreal visuals, like any Old Mill retheme, most Kennywood guests will remember the attraction for something else. While most of the emails I received detailed
Well, it was Garfield themed. I gave incredible head to a guy on the ride. After the first bend, once you're properly in the tunnel with Garfield panels and Pepsi ads, I shit on him. I don't even know why I'm telling you this. I blank on him. Okay, so that could be many things. I pissed on him. I shit on him. I prayed. I prayed on him. Like I prayed. I prayed on him. You know, like I put my elbows on him and I prayed. I nobbled on him. God, I wish he would not blur these out, man. I want to know.
Explicit and often disgusting acts of passion that took place on the Old Mill. My takeaway was not that the
Farted.
ride should be burned to the ground for the good of the general public. In fact, it was quite the opposite. The romantic activities that happened within
God damn, that's a lot of romantic activities all over the
the
wall.
walls of the Old Mill, as humorous and crass as they could be, reminded me of something that I've always believed. Theme and amusement parks are special environments, where some of our strongest memories are formed, whether that's thrill, imagination, or even love. Hearing people of many different generations share how this one ride impacted them was surprisingly moving.
Is it weird that both of the females are like, oh God. Well, the dudes are like, hey. Like this image alone. Hey, babe. Oh God. No. That's literally what this, look at her face. She's like, God, do I really have to go on the ride with him?
Moving. To hear stories of young angst, the nerves of going on the ride with someone you had a crush on, the scariness of having your first kiss, and even missed opportunities, lost loves. For one rider who grew up in a small town, the dark tunnels of the attraction were the first place he felt safe kissing his boyfriend. For a married couple, a trip on the Old Mill made them laugh and feel like they were in high school again. When the messages weren't overtly erotic, they were actually beautiful, and a good reminder of why I love talking about these parks. They are memorable and exciting places where it's as much about riding the attractions as it is who you are riding with. And sometimes the most memorable experience one can have is getting a kiss while riding a boat through a dark tunnel. And
A Garfield tunnel.
sometimes it's getting a kiss while riding a boat in front of a neon Garfield.
True. Or an over the pants handy, or you know, penis touch. Wholesome penis touch. All right. Or the Bible, that too. I found out I was gay on the Garfield Nightmare Dark Ride at Kennywood Park, Pennsylvania. My quote of the year.
Now it's time to walk away. I hope you enjoyed your stay. Did you laugh or cry or maybe subscribed? I'll thank you either way. You know I will miss you. I hope you return. Tell your friend or your mother to get me more views, please.